we love to throw around the phrase, toxic empathy. And we normally reserve it for women in sports or examples of just women being too empathetic. But it's happening to men. It's pervasive throughout the culture. Toxic empathy. And I am a huge fan of Nick Saban. Greatest football coach of all time. I think he's a tremendous leader. I think he was a tremendous leader at Alabama and everywhere, Michigan State, LSU, everywhere he coached, Miami Dolphins. But I have mixed feelings, and I'm somewhat disappointed that Nick Saban has chosen to write a letter vouching for the character of Terrion Arnold, the Detroit Lions defensive back, the former Alabama Crimson Tide defensive back, who's in a boatload of trouble, seeking revenge on people he thought had stolen something from him. He now faces major kidnapping and, him and some armed friends kidnapped someone they thought had robbed them. And Terrion Arnold, could face as much time as life in prison. And I get why. This was a prominent recruit for Nick Saban. Nick Saban and his wife knew that Terrion Arnold came from a difficult background. They wrapped their arms around this kid, embraced this kid. He was a great football player at Alabama. He's a first-round pick for the Detroit Lions. And everybody deserves innocent until proven guilty. But for Nick Saban, no longer the head football coach at Alabama, to jump into this fire and vouch for his Terrion's credibility, I have a problem with it, but I'm going to, say my piece, and then I'm going to allow Charles, college basketball coach, and Virgil Walker, a minister, to push back on me and maybe correct me that maybe I'm just wrong here. But I want to read you the letter Nick Saban wrote to a judge in support of Terrion Arnold. And I imagine this had something to do with Terrion trying to get bail. But let me read this letter, and this is just, in my view, toxic empathy. And we're at a point where with these young people, and I'm going to put the extra layer, the extra explanation on here. If Terrion wasn't on video exposing his level of stupidity, if he weren't on video talking about how much he loved to run with the YNs, and that's just who he is, he's out in these streets, I wouldn't have a problem with Nick Saban writing this letter. But I just don't think if you watch and interpret and you have any discernment about how Terrion Arnold carried himself, what he was willing to say on a podcast with his former Alabama teammates, Patrick Surtain and Devonta Smith, it's like maybe Nick Saban didn't really know Terrion Arnold, and maybe Nick Saban should exercise his right to remain silent. But let me read the letter. And this is connected to the theme that I'm going to explore all day, just toxic empathy, the feminization of sports, the victimhood Olympics that we have going on in sports. But let me read the letter. Dear Judge Sabella, my name is Nick Saban, and I have spent decades as a football coach working with young men from diverse and often difficult backgrounds. In that time, I have had the privilege of watching hundreds of athletes grow not just as players, but as men. I write this letter because of the exceptional character I witnessed in Terrion Arnold over the more than 6 years I have known him. I first met Terrion when he joined my program in 2021. From the beginning, he stood out, not only because of his athletic ability, but because of who he was off the field. Based on my experience with Terrion, I've always believed he leads with genuine care for the people around him. Over the years, I have welcomed Terrion into my home and around my family. He has consistently treated my family and my staff with respect, humility, and kindness. And all the time I have known him, he never once gave me cause to question his conduct, his integrity, or his respect for others. I don't ever recall him being involved in any behavior that would be described as aggressive or irresponsible. Based on my experiences with Terrion, I remain committed to supporting him. While I'm not overly familiar with or educated on the charges he's facing and understand the seriousness of his situation before the court, I would respectfully ask the court to take into account my experience with Terrion, his character, history, and positive impact he had on our program. Respectfully, Nick Saban. So Nick Saban's acknowledging, hey, look, man, I haven't done the homework. I don't really know what's going on here. But, man, Terrion was a great player for me at Alabama. And when he came over to the house with me and Miss Terry, he was on his best behavior. And so if Nick Saban is willing to spend him and Miss Terry all of their time micromanaging, spending time with Terrion Arnold, maybe we'd see more good behavior from Terrion Arnold. But at some point, kids grow up. Kids leave the nest. And at some point, parents, mentors have to be like, man, maybe I really didn't know this person. And unless I'm willing to do the homework, maybe I need to stay out of this and say less. And I don't want to sound like I'm just trying to be brutal on Nick Saban, because I get where he's coming from. Having been involved with a lot of kids, you've heard me talk about family members that I brought into my home, adopted into my home. You know, I got a cousin that I love like a son, a nephew, lived with me for 2 years. And I could say, hey, the time that I knew him, but when he went back home to Indianapolis after living with me in Kansas City, some of the things that he did, it's like, hey, I never saw that. And I could have written a letter, or not that I was asked, but I could have written a letter and said what I saw. But when he was pistol whipping a man in front of his home, that was behavior that caught me by surprise. And when you hear about stories like that, you know what? That person needs to go sit down somewhere in a box with his freedoms taken away, and then we'll see if he can figure it out. And for my cousin, it worked. He figured it out. Hasn't been in trouble since. I'm very pleased with him and his son and his wife and the life that he's built post having to be set down, had to face and having like the empathy and sympathy and trust me, my cousin came from a very tough background, very tough. Any of these excuses or any of these justifications that people want to offer up for Terrion Arnold or any of these guys, my cousin experienced it all. But he had to go sit down for a while. And in that process of sitting down in a box with other men, he eventually figured it out and changed his ways. And I'd say, I would imagine he's been out for 15 years, transformed his life. And again, I'm way on the outside, but when you listen to the allegations against Terrion Arnold, listen to the evidence they have against Terrion Arnold, if Nick Saban were interested in finding out what the government's case is, what the allegations are, maybe Nick Saban will be like, hey, Terrion, you need to go sit down somewhere for a good stretch of time. What you did was incredibly stupid, violent, disrespectful, and worthy of a box to sit in. That's just the reality. That's where we are in America. And I think in sports, and particularly in professional sports, and particularly in professional media, we've gone over, hey, we can make money with these kids, and they have so much athletic talent, we should overlook everything. And it's corroded our culture. Athletes are no longer, they have zero interest in, I'm not going to say role model, they have zero interest in setting an example for young people. Zero interest. It's not part, I'm not talking about being a role model, I'm just talking about being a responsible citizen, realizing you have large influence over young people, you have an amazing platform, and none of these guys, or less and less of these guys, give any thought to like, hey man, kids are watching me, I need to set a better example. Everybody loves to run to a podcast studio and brag about all the idiotic, stupid, degenerate things that they've done. Everybody loves to go on a podcast and prove just how street they are, and how hip-hop, and how criminal, and how one of the boys, one of the guys they are. I want to play the clip. We played it earlier this week, maybe on Monday. Is today Wednesday? Yeah, it's only been 3 days this week. But on Monday, I want to play the clip of Terrion telling Devonta Smith and Patrick Surtain Jr. exactly who he is.
Just as far as like how I look at it, because I already know how I am. I know how Pat is. Like, hey, I'm with the YNs all day. Bro. The youth in need, brother. That's me. That's me. That's me, brother. Like, hey, I know my crowd, man. Got to keep maturing, Smitty, man. The pinnacle that you at in life, man. I can't wait till I get older so I can achieve that. Then look back of how I used to be.
That sounds like someone that needs to go sit down somewhere in a box so he can look back and say, hey, that's how I used to be. I'm done running with the YNs, the youth in need, the young Negroes, the troublemakers. That's how he got in this trouble. And so Nick Saban needs to let this kid suffer the consequences of the decisions he's made, rather than writing some long letter talking about, hey man, when this guy was with me, he was on his best behavior. Me and Miss Terry, we never saw him pull guns on anyone and kidnap them because he thought they had stolen from him. We never saw that. He didn't do it to us. When he was in our multi-million-dollar home and we were feeding him and lining up NIL contracts and all this money for him, we didn't see it. Here's the thing where I will be, and I'll land the plane and bring in Virgil and Charles, but here's the thing where I am sympathetic towards Nick Saban, all coaches, all people that are trying to mentor athletes. And this is people, because people have this belief that money solves everything. Oh, if we just gave these kids money, their character would rise. Their morality would rise. It's just not true. You give them more money, the more they believe everything they're doing is right. I've listened to athletes make the argument. I've listened to instant millionaires or just athletes, the spoiled, I've listened to them explain, well, why would I be so blessed if I was doing something wrong? Hey, running with the YNs and being loyal to the YNs and being loyal to my hood, that's why I'm so blessed, because I haven't turned my back on the people that I was with before I had any money. The money justifies the stupid behavior. When you're a first-round pick and when you've been lathered in NIL money and financial riches and celebrity worship and a cult-like following, it makes you think, Well, man, me smoking all this weed, that's part of my success package. I'll give you the example because it can be all kinds of stupidity. I used to think being overweight was part of my success package. That's why people found me relatable as a columnist and all these jokes I crack on myself. You can start believing the dumb things you're doing are a part of your success. And when people start throwing millions of dollars at you, and when people are so blinded by your talent that someone like Nick Saban, who has great discernment, can't see the BS on Terrion Arnold, a kid he's known for 6 years. You're blinded by the talent. You're blinded by, hey, I did that. I was the person that, brought him to Alabama and nurtured him and developed him, and now he's making millions of dollars. Hey, look at me. What I did at Alabama really mattered. I made a difference in this kid's life. It's a lot harder to make a difference in these kids' life and in their worldview when they have millions of social media worshipers and millions of dollars in the bank. So I want to start there, and I want to bring Virgil and Charles into the conversation. And so we're going to, I want to take care of a little business. We'll take a little break, and we'll come back with Virgil and Charles. I'm going to let them correct me. Perhaps I'm wrong for being this hard on Nick Saban. But I want to tell you guys about one of our latest sponsors. It's a tool that is helping me. This is personal for me. I don't want to be like Caitlin Clark and, be out of business or out of work because my back is acting up. This uprightly chair that I've got is helping me correct my back pain. A lot of us, you guys know, I spend a lot of time talking about the systems, institutions, and accepted beliefs that deserve a second look. Sometimes the conventional wisdom is right. Sometimes it isn't. When it comes to back pain, I think most of us have been conditioned to believe that getting older automatically means more pain, less mobility, and a slow decline in physical function. And we're just trying to figure it out how to live with it. But I came across a group that is proving that anyone can fight back at any age. So I started working with this company called Uprightly to find out for myself. Americans spend billions every year on medications, treatments, procedures, and therapies. Yet back pain remains one of the leading causes of disability around the world, according to the World Health Organization and the CDC. At some point, you have to ask yourself, is there someone out there working to solve this problem, or do we just mask symptoms for the rest of our lives? Uprightly Spine Care is disrupting the traditional pathways of temporary treatments and exists to equip and empower you to take control of your own spine health. They're not offering pills, injections, or surgery. They've developed a sophisticated yet simple in-home program that helps you address the root cause of common back and neck pain. So if you're tired of temporary repetitive treatments and you're interested in long-term spine health, visit liveuprightly.com. That's liveuprightly.com. Use my promo code FEARLESS and save 5%. Plus, they offer a 30-day risk-free trial. Again, that's liveuprightly.com. When we come back, Virgil and Charles. LeBron James is 41, Steph Curry's 38, Jimmy Butler's 36, Draymond Green is 36, and Al Horford is 40. Holy cow, this is a really old team. Between load management and injuries, this could be a train wreck. I think LeBron James is taking a bit of a risk, and I know he's getting run out. For Steph Curry, no risk. But for LeBron to jump to a different team because the Lakers pushed him out, and there's not much of a GOAT debate at this point, I think what he's going to do is put Kobe in play. There's not an argument about him and Michael. It's about him and Kobe and who was better. All right, welcome back. We got a little delay, I think, with Virgil, but I think Charles is here. Charles, I want you to give me a coach's perspective, and I'm halfway hoping you disagree with me because I'm still thinking this through. But I don't like Nick Saban writing this letter, defending this or vouching for the character of an athlete that I think he clearly didn't know that well.
I understand exactly where you're coming from, but I disagree with you wholeheartedly as in regards to Nick Saban. Uh, and I tried to put myself in Nick Saban's situation, and I think I can understand exactly where he's coming from. If you go back a few years, you remember Henry Ruggs?
Yes.
That I heard him speak about Henry Ruggs. That burned him to his core. I mean, he spoke about how nobody around him was man enough or tough enough to take his keys. They was worried about being friends with the millionaire, and so he had surrounded himself by a bunch of people who would let a kid just drive off and kill somebody in a car wreck and ruin his career. He's sitting in a jail in Las Vegas, and Nick really believed that Henry Ruggs is a great person who did a bad thing, and he couldn't save him. There was nothing he could do to save the situation. I think he's looking at Terrion Arnold the same way. This is a good kid who may or may not have done something bad, and I got to do everything I can to try and protect him. Now, the way he acted around Coach Saban and Miss Terry, well, I'm 100% sure is different than how he acted when he with his boys. But the fact he's smart enough to understand, hey, I'm at Coach Saban's house. I'm around his wife. I got to represent myself a little better. The fact that he's smart enough to understand that makes you wonder, why can't he understand that when he go out in the streets? So I understand what people would say, boy, this is just a dumb thing for this kid to do if he's guilty of it. But I can completely understand where Coach Saban is coming from. I mean, because as coaches, you always say, these young men are an extension of my family. Well, you wouldn't write a letter to the judge about one of your biological kids saying, boy, this is real stupid what he's done. Throw him in jail. That's where he needs to be.
Charles, I certainly wouldn't write a letter, but again, I got a cousin, lived with me in Kansas City for 2 years. I love him like a son, like a nephew. He ended up going back to Indianapolis, got in a bunch of trouble, and I had recently. Now he needs to go sit down. He screwed up too bad. The only thing that's gonna fix it is sitting down somewhere. So, whatever character I saw for the 2 years he lived with me in Kansas City, the only thing that was going to straighten him out were the harsh consequences of the crimes that he had committed, and it worked. And I mean, it's the only thing that shook him up. And so when I see Nick Saban basically say, I haven't even looked into the case, I'm just going to tell you what me and Miss Terry saw. He's lived long enough. And it's like with the Henry Ruggs, he wrote something similar for Henry Ruggs, and I got it. He was still the coach at Alabama. And when you're the coach and you're constantly recruiting kids from questionable backgrounds, you have to maintain that credibility. He's no longer the coach at Alabama. He's a TV commentator. And I know he has an affinity and love for Terrion Arnold, but no more so than I have and had for my cousin. Sometimes love is the only answer sometimes.
Well, like I say, I mean, Terrion Arnold basically told you in the podcast, this is what I like to do in my spare time. And Nick Saban didn't see that. Nick Saban could very well be under the impression, here is a good kid that's caught up in something really bad, and sitting in prison for the next 20 years is not going to fix the situation. And that's probably why he said, I'm not aware of the situation, what happened. Yeah, I don't believe that. He's read it. He's read the report. He's read the report. What he meant to say is, boy, I sure hope he didn't do this. And I listened to the judge at the arraignment, and the judge all but told the prosecutor, well, the only thing that ties this kid to this case is the testimony of two guys that's about to do a bunch of time in jail, and you're gonna have to have more than that in this court. And so I'm thinking, boy, there's already some wiggle room here for this kid. Hey, listen, and I'll say it again. I'll tell you a story. This was about 30 years ago. I told my mother there was a rapper, and I said, I don't understand these rappers. And she said, my mother said, what do you mean? I said, they pull themselves out of the ghetto. They become real rich and famous. They sitting here with $20-25 million. And then they go do a whole bunch of dumb stuff. They start tattooing themselves up and acting crazy and doing dumb stuff. I don't understand it. And my mama looked at me and said, well, in this situation, you're the idiot. And I said, why would you say that? And she said, you're under the impression that just because an idiot came into $20-25 million, they're going to make them smarter and more responsible. When in reality, they're just an idiot with $20-25 million. and I've never forgotten that. And so we look at kids and we think, boy, he's got this big payday. He is still the same person he was the day before. If he was running the streets and hanging out with the YNs and doing this and that on Friday, and he gets a $50 million check on Monday, well, what changed him? He's the same person. And it took my mother to explain that one to me.
I think Virgil's here. Virgil, obviously, Charles is doing a decent job of disabusing me of like, hey man, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. Maybe Nick Saban knows something you don't. And yes, the video of him talking about he loves to hang out with YNs and all that. But I guess I have so much black fatigue that my sympathy is out the window when I see someone blow an opportunity like this. And I explained to Charles, explained to the audience that, like, I've been through this with my own family where I've had to, like, draw a line like, you know what, you do need to go sit down somewhere. Let the outreach I've done, the hey, come live with me for 2 years, it's not enough. You obviously need a stronger deterrent. And that's where I think Nick Saban should be, but maybe I'm looking for a more biblical advice here. Nick Saban, is he out of line here?
No, I get what Saban is trying to do, and I loved what Charles just said as he kind of explained the fact that money is an amplifier, right? It's neutral, but once it comes into your life, especially to the degree of a $25 million, it's going to amplify your behavior. It's going to expose who you really are. You have now the freedom and the ability to do more of what you want to do. It's a bad look to go back to hang with YNs and to promote that as something that you desire to do, that's how you get down. That's what you understand. And wanting to appeal to the culture eventually, especially a poor culture, like YN culture, gets you into these situations. Now, what Saban is doing is what you hope many would do, which is provide the benefit of the doubt. But for me, the benefit of the doubt will take place with not just a letter written based upon Saban's name and who he is, but the benefit of the doubt would go in with, what do I do as I go in and have conversation with this young man to hear what's taken place, to hear what's happened. This is more of a discipleship matter, right? This is more of a matter that the church would need to get involved. I believe, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. You're probably more familiar with Saban's, if he has a profession of faith or what have you. He's obviously football coaching allows you to disciple young men, and a disciple is just someone who's being taught, right? It's a teacher. You're discipling young men. You're teaching. You're training young men. The issue is, in what worldview? Is the worldview based upon the Bible and Scripture and a standard of God, what God has to say, or is it just discipline for the sake of accomplishing a football goal or getting to the next rung, getting to the NFL? If they're short-sighted goals like getting to the NFL, that has its benefit, but there's no buffer to keep you from really destroying yourself in the way that it looks like Terrion has potentially positioned himself. Whereas if it is based upon the word of God in scripture, there's a standard by which Saban would have to go and talk to this young man about what he's doing, why it's wrong. There's an agreement about why it's wrong. And that standard would hold him to something more true rather than just emotion or a virtue signal or what have you. So time will tell. This will have to play itself out. It is sad on any level, Jason. I think allowing the idea of innocence until proven guilty is helpful. But also at the same time, we've got to, it's sad when you see this kind of situation. We should feel sadness about it because I get being tired and worn out, but this is also a very sad situation.
Charles, I know coaches talk about this all the time, and this is a great example of like these athletes and young people. We think these little things don't matter. We think, hey, we can tweet this out, we can post this on IG, I can go on this podcast and present myself in this fashion. And I guarantee you, Terrion, when he's on with Devonta Smith and Patrick Surtain, he's never thinking, like, holy cow, this could paint me in a light that's going to blow up in my face 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, a year down the road. But it is that easy because, trust me, if I hadn't watched him brag about and just kind of, hey, man, I'm just with the YNs and that's just who I am, I'd have a whole different point of view on this. And I'm constantly saying, like, man, these athletes and celebrities, old people, young people, it's like, we don't believe. John Thompson used to say, hey, man, I got a public life, I got a private life, and I got a personal life. And they're all three different things. Everybody treats their life like it's just nothing but digital content. And it's just nothing but a little money-making tool to build my brand, and it's blown up in this kid's face.
Well, let me ask you something, Jason. If I told you and Virgil right now, if y'all asked me, hey, how do you spend your time, Charles? And I said, well, I got a group of guys that I grew up with, and we like to get together and we hang out and we do things. You know, we've been friends for the past 40, 50 years, and we basically support one another. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Well, that's exactly what he said, except he made himself sound like an idiot by trying to be cool and hip and showing that, hey, you know, I got that dog in me, I got that thug in me. I'm kicking it with my YNs. He said the same thing I said, but the way he delivered it is going to come back on him. And I want to say one other thing about Nick Saban. Nick Saban is perhaps the most polarizing figure we've had in sports, in college sports, this century. And he's earned every bit of it. He can't take a hard stand publicly against this kid because people are listening. I mean, people in Tampa are listening. You know, he can't say, "Well, see, even Nick Saban think this guy's a thug." He can't. That is the one thing he can't do. He would be 100% wrong if he did that. And I would like to think that Nick Saban and his wife both, that at the end of this, whatever happens, good or bad, he's going to tell Terrion Arnold how he really feels and how he really screwed up. And I like to think that about Nick Saban.
Yeah, but Charles, let me ask you this, and I agree with you. I think it'd be the wrong move for him to come out and say, "Hey, this young kid's a thug." But there's got to be something constructive that he says, right? He has the ear of so many young black men across the NFL and in college, and those who aspire to get to college. What would it look like for him to say, "Man, you know, I love Terrion. I've known this young man. I've seen him in better days. This is an incredibly poor choice, and if the allegations are true, that's a direction you know, if you're watching, should not follow." But in the same light, I love him. I'm going to go check on him and to see how he's doing and what I can do to support him. And even if that means, you know, letting the consequences of his actions fall upon him. Like what would Saban lose by making a statement like that?
He can't testify against the kid. I mean, and basically, if he said some of that, he would be testifying against Terrion before he ever got to trial. Because, like I said, he's polarizing. I mean, as many people there are in this country who knows who Terrion Arnold is, it doesn't compare to the people who know who Nick Saban is. And so, like I said in the beginning, Nick finds himself in a very, very peculiar situation here. And he didn't ask for it. He didn't wake up saying, "Boy, I want one of my players to be charged with all these heinous things so I can just come out and defend him." He didn't ask for this situation. Does the things that he's charged with, does Nick Saban think that's egregious? Oh, I guarantee you he is. I guarantee you he's hot at Terrion Arnold for having to come out and defend him. But he can't in any way give the impression that, yeah, this is what I thought. I knew he'd be here someday. He can't do that.
But Charles, there's another option, right? The other option is remain silent. To the point you just made, not a lot of people know who Terrion is. Definitely more know who Nick Saban is. If Nick Saban chose to say nothing at all, right? What would he lose there? I just think coming out in defense of this young man's actions, not knowing all the facts, and it leaves a message. It leaves the same message that we currently have going on in the culture, which is if you're black and you're charged with a crime, you could in one instance you could even say you did it, right? I don't know that Terrion is saying that, but you're not accountable. And coaches and famous people who you've known in the past are going to step up because of the color of your skin and defend you, right? That's what's gonna transpire and take place.
Virgil, let me hop in and say this, and I'm contradicting myself. Hopefully y'all heard me at the beginning when I said I'm thinking this through. I got mixed feelings. But here's what the mitigating circumstance may be, because part of what I was thinking was like, hey man, Nick Saban's doing what his mama and daddy should do. They should be vouching for his character. This kid, my understanding is, doesn't really have an involved mother or father. And so who's been playing that role? Nick Saban and his wife. And so is this what a parent would say in that situation? Nick Saban, Miss Terry probably sitting around. They know all the intimate details. Hey, there's no one to speak for this kid. Mom and daddy aren't involved or got problems or whatever. Aunties and uncles may not, and it's us. And so, because if this were Nick Saban's child, I'd be, well, it's his child. Now, to some degree, I wouldn't agree with it, but again, this isn't a Carmelo Anthony situation where the kids confessed and everybody knows he did it. Nick Saban may be falling for or know that, hey, this is exaggerated. Terrion's role in this isn't what it's being said, and so he's playing the role of the parent, vouching for his son's credibility or integrity. Maybe that's it, Virgil. No?
Yeah. I mean, it could be. Here's the thing. I grew up with a mom and dad. I'm blessed to know both and grown up grown up with them. And they taught me well. My mom told me when I was little, from the earliest time I could remember, of understanding how I was supposed to live my life outside of the house. It was one, don't hang out with friends who are going to get you in trouble. If you're at a grocery store and somebody's stealing, guess what? You're stealing too, right? So I mean, my parents taught me that early. The other thing my mom in particular told me is, if you ever find yourself in jail, don't even bother calling, because I'm not coming to get you. So that was the the whole thought process for me was, I definitely don't want to put myself in a position even close to being around some drama where somebody gets caught up in something where jail time is an opportunity or an option, because I won't be able to call home. And if I do call home and someone happens to answer, they're not coming to get me. And so I was crystal clear, and it caused my behavior and the choices I made to be very different than what young people today are comfortable associating themselves with, only to later explain, well, I wasn't that involved. Like that wouldn't even be an option for me. Well, I know they were the ones doing the kidnapping and the assaulting. I was just in the room watching it. Like I didn't really get, like, that's not even an option. Like why even put ourselves in those kinds of situations?
Charles, I'll give you the final say, and then we'll move on.
Well, Nick Saban don't want to be caught in the same situation that Detroit Lions find themselves in. I had someone tell me point blank the other day when we were talking about this, dude, he had to do something, man. Detroit done cut him already. All right, and there's guys in the Detroit Lions locker room that's probably looking at the owner and the general manager going, hey, wait a minute, man. You can't have our back any more than this. And I'm not saying innocence or guilt here. I'm just saying, God, hey, you really mean tell me we can't count on you in a tough situation? And that's the same. I'm telling you, that's how Nick Saban. Nick Saban can't stay quiet. I mean, nobody's gonna let. I mean, the media wouldn't do their job if they let Nick Saban stay quiet. I mean, you tutored this guy for 4 years, and he finds himself in this situation, and now all of a sudden you want to be quiet. I think Nick said what he had to say, and I think Nick really believes that this is a good young man from really, really bad home life, and he's finding himself in a bad situation. In other words, he's a good kid who did a bad thing, and I think he's trying to lend him a hand here.
All right, Virgil, I'm gonna let you go. Charles, I want you to stick around. We've started the show with this topic, one, because I wanted to get it off my chest. It was something we were going to talk about yesterday. I think it's fascinating. But also, I wanted the ability to react if there was any more NBA news. And so Charles is the perfect person. The Lakers have signed Mitchell Robinson to Celtics got Mitchell Robinson. I'm sorry. Free agent center Mitchell Robinson has agreed to a 3-year, $47 million deal to sign with the Boston Celtics with a player option in third season, sources tell ESPN. Robinson departs the Knicks after serving a key role in the historic championship team. Charles, Mitchell Robinson off to the Boston Celtics. Your thoughts?
I think that's a big loss for the New York Knicks. I really do, and I think it's a big because the league is becoming Jurassic on that baseline all of a sudden. There's the better teams are real big down on that baseline, and you got a proven shot blocker, a proven defender and rebounder. The extent of his offense is lobs at the rim. I mean, that's how he scored in high school. So you're never gonna go to him on the offensive end. But when you lose somebody like that, a key player for the New York Knicks, you got to replace him. And that's the bad part of you got to replace him. And who's left for them to replace him with? And it's compounded by the fact that he went to a team that you're going to have to get through in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. So I think that's advantage Boston on that one, provided they don't do something silly and go ahead and get rid of Jaylen Brown then.
And so this is what confused me. I got two different text messages basically at the same time. The Lakers have cut a deal for Walker Kessler, acquiring Kessler from the Utah Jazz, unprotected first-round picks in 2031 and 2033, first-round swaps in 28 and 2030. Sources tell ESPN Kessler will sign a massive 4-year, $130 million deal with the Lakers. Who got the better center here?
Yeah, that's a good one. They're both good shot blockers. I think Kessler may be a little better on offense, and I think that's the only difference. But I think they're both going to fit the bill for what they're. As long as they're both coming in, as backups. If they're coming in as starters, that's a whole different story.
$130 million Kessler's starting.
Yeah, they
$130 million
start.
he's starting. And I would imagine Mitchell Robinson is going to start for the Celtics as well. I think that just keeping it real, and I'm not trying to do this to be racially divisive, but I just find this fascinating.
I know where you're going.
The Lakers are the exciting whites. I mean, Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, Walker Kessler. The Los Angeles Lakers are building what the Boston Celtics used to be in the 80s.
Yeah. And I'll say this about the Lakers. as I said about the Celtics in the 80s, people would say, the Celtics, they got all these white guys out there. And just totally look over the fact that they were good as hell. I mean, they deserved to be there. And, anybody would have wanted that. Personally, I think the 86 Celtics is the best NBA team I ever saw. So, and this Laker team, well, yeah, who wouldn't want to coach Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves? I mean, the kid before he got injured last year, Austin Reeves was getting 28 a game. They were averaging 35 and 28 at one time, the two of them. And Walker Kessler is going to help them out a great deal. He's a good shot blocker. He can rebound, and he can give you a little offense every now and then. So I think it's a good get for him.
It's certainly an improvement over Ayton. I think we can all agree on that. And I think if they re-sign or reach an agreement with Hachimura, this is an interesting team. I wonder. You're saying Kessler is a defender. He'll need to be, because Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, that's not their calling card defense. But fascinating moves. I want to do that. Charles, I'm going to give you an option to go on with your day, or you can stick around. But there's some WNBA stuff I want to talk about. And I've now reached out to Maurice, because Maurice sent me Stephanie White has responded to Alyssa Thomas and has basically taken a dump on Indiana Fever fans. And I got this whole, so if you want to stick around, you can. I'm going to take a little break and regroup. We'll come back with, I got a little rant about the WNBA and the whole race to victimhood that I'll go into. And then I know Maurice will be here. Charles will likely be here. We'll react to that. Give me a second to regroup. Based on all the news and based on this new Stephanie White clip, I want to try to take a peek at it or be prepared. We'll be right back.
ESPN sucks. And I hope he's watching. One of the things we not going to do, bro, is we not going to let you sit around and act like you a victim. We ain't going to do that. We ain't letting Jaylen Brown get away with that.
Can we talk about just Sodom for a second?
Oh,
I mean,
what do you guys call him? The fucking wanker, right? Or whatever. I mean, he's wearing that new. He's all dressed up and ready to go. Some of them. You did just so.
Okay. Lucky you're on American television.
Pert, the jacket is fresh. The take was awful. God awful.
So the Portland Trailblazers select Colin Coward here. This is a young man.
Range. So, how do you stop someone that gets shots off the catch? You fight over the top of the screen. Donovan Atwell now is going to go over the top of the screen, but Darren Peterson has an answer for that as well.
And that's why
ESPN sucks.
As the WNBA turns, starring Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Asia Wilson. Brought to you by George Soros, Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, and the Global Elite.
All right, welcome back. The Victimhood Olympics in the WNBA is in full swing. And it's part of the reason why I started with Coach Saban and just the toxic empathy. Just like, man, our American culture is being so feminized. No, men are reluctant to take tough, courageous stances. Everything in sports is about who's the bigger victim, and you can see that no better place than in the WNBA, where Alyssa Thomas is a victim. Her wife, DeWanna Bonner, has joined the Victim Olympics. Caitlin Clark's fans, not so much Caitlin Clark, but Caitlin Clark's fans are insisting that she's a gigantic victim. Everything is victimhood, 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 victimhood. I don't know who the gold medalist is. At some point, it may turn into Indiana Fever fans. Based on, I haven't seen the clip. Maurice has told me about the clip. But based off of Stephanie White's deal, she's going after Indiana Fever fans and siding with Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner. It's like, if they don't get Caitlin Clark away from a coach who is not in alignment with her. And yeah, I don't want to cape up and make Caitlin Clark a victim, but I do want to say, like, these women aren't built for this. They're not. The friction, the conversation, the passion from fans and fan bases, social media and what it exposes you to, they're not built for this. And everybody's putting themselves on the cross. I got death threats. The Athletic did a story today or yesterday about Alyssa Thomas calls out WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert after receiving online threats. This Annie Costabile, I think, wrote part of this story. She put out a tweet yesterday. Do we have that tweet she put out? Yeah, let's pull up the tweet so I can read how, The Athletic has obtained screenshots of nearly a dozen text, direct messages, and social media comments sent to DeWanna Bonner, including racial slurs and death threats. She told The Athletic she hasn't heard from Commissioner Kathy Engelbert in years. Hey man, everybody on social media gets death threats and racial slurs and rude comments. NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, anybody in the spotlight. And particularly if you want to promote a political agenda like the WNBA, the league has intentionally devoted itself to a left-wing political agenda. Do women understand when you get involved in politics, it's not a death threat endeavor, it's a death sport. Assassinations happen. The league has chosen, we're going to be at the forefront of left-wing politics and the LGBTQ issue. They're going to promote their political agenda. Well, if you hop into politics, don't get surprised if you're treated like James Garfield or Abraham Lincoln or John Kennedy or Donald Trump or Charlie Kirk or Ronald Reagan or any of these people. Death threats, rude comments, that's what comes along with politics. And so all the scream, I haven't heard from Kathy Engelbert. What is Kathy Engelbert going to do? Stop people from being idiots over social media? Good luck with that. Jack Dorsey tried. Elon Musk has tried. It can't be done. What is Kathy Engelbert supposed to do? If she really wanted to tamp down the conversation in the WNBA, she would have to make the WNBA less political. She would have to neuter the politics of the WNBA. Hey, we're not going to be the Pride Month League for 5 months. We're not going to sit around and pretend like Donald Trump is the worst person on the planet. We're going to come out and support the national anthem and stand at attention. We're not going to let the players defend Jacob Blake, a serial sexual assaulter who the police happened to shoot when he pulled a knife on. So all that political hot garbage that the WNBA likes to do would all have to stop if they want to turn down the hostility, because hostility goes along with politics. And as long as there's hey, Caitlin Clark and her fans are MAGA and we hate them, and as long as your group is pro-Kamala Harris and we love her, there's going to be friction and hostility. There are going to be death threats. Everybody gets them. And women aren't built for it. Clearly. That's why they do all this whining. I want to play you a couple of clips from Alyssa Thomas, and then we're going to play the Stephanie White clip. But here's Alyssa Thomas yesterday. She has spoken out and spoken about the neck strangle that was a brush across the arm and neck heard round the world. The most exaggerated throat punch in the history of America. Here's Alyssa Thomas. Let's play SOT. We'll start with SOT 5 and the narratives that she's complaining about.
What's the last week been like for you?
I'm crazy. Playing the game, being suspended, just the whole narrative that's being painted out there. It's unfortunate that it's come to this over basketball. A lot of us, myself included, didn't even know the play took place until after the game, and now we're being painted as thugs and there's death threats out on us. So it's really unacceptable. It's something that needs to change in this league, and I'm just really sick and tired of it.
Let's play SOT number 6.
Have you ever experienced something like that before?
A couple years ago when we played Indy in the playoffs, same thing, but not to this extent. Our families are being threatened, kids are being threatened, people are sending racial slurs and all types of stuff. And, there's a difference between trolling and there's a difference between hatred. And the hatred that we're experiencing over a play that honestly was a complete accident. No one even knew it happened. It's just unfortunate. But, yeah, the league has to do better in this instance.
What's the league going to do? And, it was an accident. I ran my fist across your arm and neck. It wasn't an accident, Elisa. You're lying. Let's play SOT 7.
Honestly, I didn't even know I was being suspended until 10 minutes before it was put on social media. We still have yet to hear anything from Kathy. It's no surprise. You can see what's being said on social media, and it's unfortunate. But as usual, she remains silent, and that's unfortunate when our lives are being threatened.
Our lives are being threatened, and I haven't heard from Kathy Engelbert. According to Kathy Engelbert, that's a lie. She's reached out to Alyssa Thomas via text last week, repeatedly, no response. These women love being victims. They love it. This is what they live for. I'm a victim. Someone come rescue me. And even though Alyssa Thomas is 6'2", 220 pounds, and looks like an outside linebacker, she's a woman. She wants to be rescued. And so she wants Kathy Engelbert to come in and rescue her. Oh, all these terrible things that are being said about me online. Rescue me. Kathy Engelbert, take me away. That illogical women that want to be men but don't want to deal with what men have to deal with. They want to be paid like men. They want to be treated like men. But when they get treated like men, they whine and complain. How dare you treat me? How dare I have to deal with what men have been dealing with and continue to deal with over social media? This has been going on forever. This isn't just athletic women that do all this whining and crying. Women in sports media. Oh, did you see the tweet that I got? Oh, these mean tweets. Jason Whitlock doesn't get mean tweets, which is comical. It's comical. This is what doesn't happen to women that does happen to men. Throughout the entirety of my Kansas City Star career, I had male athletes attempt to assault me, threaten to assault, and not via tweet, face-to-face inside locker rooms, at bars. Wayne Simmons ran into Diamond Joe's strip club, saw me sitting there, and dove at me while I'm sitting at a table. The bouncer saw it, and elbowed him before he hit me. Wayne Simmons was a linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe the Green Bay Packers before that. Really good NFL player, but he was a nut job inside. But it wasn't just him. Marcus Allen, Tracy Simeon, Andre Rison, Keyshawn Johnson. The first professional football game I ever covered in 1990. 1990, I'm pretty sure. Was it 1991? 1990. Jeff George's rookie season. The Colts played the New York Giants. And Lawrence Taylor, in my view, took a cheap shot at my favorite NFL player, Jeff George. And after the game, I asked Lawrence Taylor about the cheap shot, and he threatened me. And at that, obviously, but this is what goes along with it. And the women want to be exempt from it. And for the most part, they are. They get little Twitter comments. When you do the job the way that I do it, and as honest as I am, no, you get violence. Not fake, not imagined, real violence. And you just deal with it. It's part of the job. And that's not me being a tough guy. The old white guy, Will McDonough, got in a fight, the baseball guy. There's all kinds of just reporters that got in all kinds of fights and scraps with football players, baseball players. Do you remember Deion Sanders dumping a drink on Tim McCarver? Show me anywhere where that's happened to a woman. So cut out all the whining. If you want to play like a man, get paid like a man, act like a man, until things get real, until someone sends you a mean tweet. And now Kathy Engelbert must shut down Twitter. She must do. I haven't heard from Kathy Engelbert. The horror. Kathy hasn't. What's this little white Jewish lady gonna do? I got one more clip I want to play of Alyssa Thomas, but I want to read you an excerpt from this athletic story about DeWanna Bonner and all the venom she's faced. I'm going to quote from the story. Quote, Bonner, who is in her 17th WNBA season, said she received an unprecedented onslaught of online harassment after she left the Fever, and it hasn't stopped. She said she also hasn't been in touch with the commissioner. Quote, I haven't heard from Kathy in years. Not even after I reported the threats and racial slurs I received after parting ways with the Indiana Fever last year. The story continues. Wednesday's game was the second of two consecutive meetings between the Mercury and the Fever. In the first game last Monday, Bonner and Fever guard Sophie Cunningham engaged in a heated exchange. It resulted in a viral finger-pointing moment between them. I can barely read this. Bonner said she received a message with an image of this incident that had been manipulated to include a racial slur. I hope her eyes can recover. It's the Victimhood Olympics, and we got gold medal. We got Usain Bolt versus Carl Lewis versus Ben Johnson. Did I play side 8, Alyssa Thomas? She blames the league. Yeah, let's play it.
I think the biggest thing is it's just about our safety. We're so concerned about the safety on the court, but time and time again we're having people threatening our lives, leaking addresses out there, putting crazy pictures that have nothing to do with basketball. So at some point the league needs to put a stand on it. They came out with no hate speech, but what is that going to do? at some point, time and time again, players are going through this and the league remains silent. So I'm sick and tired of it, and it's time for them to step up and have our backs in these instances.
Yeah, it's time. They got to have our back in these instances. When people send mean tweets, the league must shut down. We must protest the mean tweets. You're 6'2", 220 pounds. You're a bully. You snatch girls down by their neck, Angel Reese. You take little arm and neck shots at Caitlin Clark. But all these mean tweets. And it's time for the league and these Indiana Fever fans. It's time for the league to do something about it. Now no one's so tough because they got a mean tweet or two. And I wish, again, this is my problem with Caitlin Clark, because her silence is allowing her cult, and she does have a cult on social media, to turn her into a victim. And it's driving me crazy because people that know nothing about sports, have no interest in sports, people that I actually respect. I can't believe I got to play this clip, but I have to play it and I apologize in advance because I'm telling you, no one has more respect for Victor Davis Hanson than me. Guy's brilliant, a brilliant historian. Used to come on Tucker Carlson show all the time. Love the guy. But this is how crazy it's gotten, and this is how seductive victimhood has gotten. That instead of laughing off Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner and the rest of these psycho-feminist nut jobs, instead of laughing them off, people have decided, alleged conservatives have decided, well, we'll just turn Caitlin Clark into a victim. Play Victor Davis Hanson.
People talk about the fist on the neck.
Yeah.
But there was also an attempt by that same woman to turn around to stomp on her, but she had rolled over.
I saw that. It was almost like a George Floyd thing with a knee. And the fist to the jugular vein was really scary. And then the referees didn't do anything. And then the next day they gave a slap on the wrist one day. And then immediately they started to turn around. The girls involved said, we're victims. We're getting racist comments. Well, welcome to the club. If you are in the public squares, I can tell you that I've had some of the worst threats in my life on online comments and emails. I think that it's got to a point where they're going to try to kill her. I really do believe that. Yeah. Whether it's going to be, intentional I know they're going to try to hurt her permanently. And they think it's cute because the perpetrator posted something, I think, right afterwards. Do you want that? And then she took it down. But and then when you see the Carmelo Anthony, the whole commentary that, I wish I had killed his twin brother on all this. And everybody's just supposed to say, you know what, this is because of slavery or something.
Victor, I get where you're coming from, man. The black fatigue is real. But let's don't hang Caitlin Clark on a cross. Let's don't pretend like anybody in the WNBA really wants to kill her. This is competitive sports. I'm not saying these women are normal. They're not. Many of them are women that want to be men. And if you're, again, they don't want to deal with the consequences. Alyssa Thomas, DeWanna Bonner, they built a lesbian culture league, and violence is a part of that, and name calling is a part of that. Go look at the domestic violence statistics among lesbians. It's astronomical. But Victor, we cannot turn Caitlin Clark into a victim here. You're not going to beat victimhood with more victimhood. Some of us had to have the courage to stand up to the victimhood mentality and say enough is enough. Because here's where it spins out of complete control. We got Stephanie White, Caitlin Clark's coach, co-signing all of this insanity, demonizing Indiana Fever fans, which is another way of demonizing Caitlin Clark. It's so crystal clear that Caitlin Clark has to leave Indiana, has to leave this organization, has to get away from Stephanie White. She hates Caitlin Clark and the fans that Caitlin Clark brought with her. Play the clip.
Yeah, I know. I got AB's sneakers on today. Before we start with questions, I just want to address, what's going on with AT. I think first and foremost, it's absolutely unacceptable. I think as a league, as a whole, there's been so much more toxicity, racism, homophobia, straight out like nonsense, hate nonsense. And it is absolutely unacceptable. Most of this coming from the online community. Most of this, in my heart of hearts, I believe, not coming from WNBA fans, Indiana Fever fans. I believe that this is people who are using our league, using our players to further divisive agendas. It's not acceptable. Yes, we have to continue to protect our players. We've got to continue to support our players in our league. We get to play a basketball game. And AT was exactly right. Like, we get to play a basketball game. And yes, that's going to come with criticism. Yes, that's going to come with fans and the love-hate relationship that they have with players and teams. That is going to come. But it's not hard to not be a jerk. And if you are one of these people that are online doing this, do not call yourself a WNBA fan. Our league is about inclusiveness. Our league is about competition. Our league is about elevating women, elevating marginalized communities, including and being inclusive of all different walks of life. That is what our league has always been about from day one. That is what our league will continue to be about. And we will continue to compete at a high level, hold ourselves to a higher standard, continue to be on the forefront of social norms, and we will continue to support one another collectively as a league. Players, coaches, staff, support staff, everyone. We're about elevating. We are not about demeaning, demanding. We are not about continuing this narrative. And it's just absolutely unacceptable.
You don't coach Phoenix, but she said that she didn't even hear from the league in the process. Do you think that that's a fair way for them to have gone about this at all? That it ended like that?
No, I think obviously when there's a lack of communication, the void is filled with negativity, right? I think being able to communicate, being able to be the one who reaches out first is important. So yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I would love if I was in that situation, I would have wanted to hear from the league. Look, none of us can control social media. The things that we can do to minimize it. Some of us are in better position than others. Myself as a coach, I don't have to get on there. Players, their brands are on there, and so it's different. It's different, and we can't control that. We know, but continuing to put whatever we can in place, I think, to support, to help, and then from a human standpoint, checking on one another. Checking on one another is important too.
She mentioned when she was with Connecticut, you were her coach
Yep.
in the series against the Fever. Actually, she felt similar things. Do you recall that? I remember you talked about this stuff during the first round, and do you feel like fan behavior has improved since then?
Yeah, I remember that because I remember our players talking about it. I remember myself talking about it. I don't know if fan behavior has improved. I don't feel like legitimate WNBA fans are the ones that we're talking about. I feel like it's an online community. And maybe this is my privilege and my being naive, but I truly believe that it is an online community that is using our league, that is using our players to continue to further divisive, hateful narratives.
Have you, any of you, some of you may be new, but I've been making this argument for a long time, many years. I'll ask people this simple question. If you had a choice between keeping the color of your skin or keeping your sexual preference. So it's like, Jason, you're heterosexual. You can maintain being a heterosexual or you can maintain being black. Which are you going to be loyal to? And every time I'm going to choose heterosexuality. I don't care what color I am. And so once you understand that, what people's priorities are, because Stephanie White is gay. She's going to be loyal to being gay above everything else. That's where her loyalties lie. And that's why she is speaking for Alyssa Thomas, because her real loyalty is to the gays. That's her priority. And that's why you just heard all that passion. Passion that she virtually never has for Caitlin Clark. And so she's the coach of the Indiana Fever. Alyssa Thomas just tried to bully her best player. And again, I think it's exaggerated in terms of the punch to the throat and all that. But there's no question, it's indisputable that Alyssa Thomas tried to bully Caitlin Clark. And Stephanie White's reaction is not with a question. She wasn't responding to a question. She came out and opened a press conference. Hey, guys, I got to tell you about Alyssa Thomas and how unfair the world is to Alyssa Thomas. And it's unacceptable because she's making a statement for the gays. I'm not anti-gay. I'm not. But I don't want a basketball coach in a basketball league thinking it's their job to defend the heterosexuals or the gays. Coach your damn team. Do what's best for Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Ball, beyond. And again, I know some of these people, Kelsey, or who knows what they are sexually, but coach your basketball team, make statements about basketball. Don't turn the league into an agenda for the gays. And that's what has happened. And that's why we have the Victim Olympics going on. Is Maurice is here? Is Bo? Oh, there's a they said Maurice Charles. Welcome into the show, Maurice. I'm gonna let you fire first because you're the one that sent me the Stephanie White clip, and I'm thankful that you did. How did you interpret what Stephanie White's doing here?
I think you hit the nail right on the head, Jason. Stephanie White basically sided with Alyssa Thomas, and it is exactly why you stated her loyalty is to that community. She's not gonna protect Caitlin Clark and side with Caitlin Clark over Alyssa Thomas in that community. It's clear as day. I think the fact that she worded it is, oh, these aren't real WNBA fans. These are the new fans. And everybody knows that when you say that, you are talking about the people that Caitlin Clark brought into this league when she got here. So I basically saw it as her slamming Caitlin Clark fans, saying that they're pushing divisive agendas and racism and hate and all this stuff. But, I find it really interesting that throughout this situation, do I believe that Alyssa Thomas should be getting death threats? Of course not. But is it that hard to ignore random people online that are talking crazy to you that have SpongeBob as their profile picture? Like, is it that tough? Jason Whitlock, you've been in this business for a long, long time. There's a lot of people that aren't fond of everything you have to say, and you seem to go about your day-to-day life pretty well. And I think it's ridiculous that, you have to understand, you guys asked for this. You guys wanted more money. Y'all wanted more fans. Well, some of these things are what come with it. There's a nasty side that come to with the attention and all of these things. I ask you guys this one question. When Tip Hayes was inciting fans to go out and physically harm Caitlin Clark off the court, did Caitlin Clark go kick and scream and yell for Kathy Engelbert to address that online? Maisha Hines-Allen in game one stepped in and got thrown out the game because she was defending her teammates versus Alyssa Thomas. She was called raccoons all over the internet. Did she go and say, hey, Kathy Engelbert, you didn't go on Twitter and tell all these people to not call me that? The victim mentality is disgusting. I think, Jason, you're 100% on. I just wish the players and coaches could actually talk about basketball. We watch a lot of games with a lot of missed layups. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the defensive lapses. Can we actually talk about basketball instead of seeing all of these agendas and all of this stuff that we don't care about. We just want to watch entertaining basketball.
The Tip Hayes point, I want to give you 15 more seconds on that. Did we hear from Stephanie White calling that out? Again, she's defending Alyssa Thomas. Did we hear her defend Caitlin Clark in that situation? Not a word.
Not a single word when it came to that situation. But I think you opened my eyes to something, because I wasn't thinking about, the sexuality part of it. And maybe if Caitlin Clark was a part of that community, she would have stepped in and went against what Tip Hayes had to say online, inciting people to harm Caitlin Clark off the floor, saying, "Oh, those are my people. Y'all ride with me."
I've been saying this forever. My question about, Charles, if you had to choose between being black or heterosexual, which one are you choosing?
Well, I'll tell you what, you asked that question earlier, and I was like, wow, I've never thought about that. I can't think of a situation where I would want to change either one of them. I just, I'm definitely going to remain heterosexual if you pin me down, but I don't want to give up either one of them, man. It's who I am.
Love them both, but I'm choosing heterosexual every time, and so are they. If they're gay, they're choosing gay over everything. And anyway, your reaction to Stephanie White and her strong defense of an opposing player.
Well, let me put this in perspective, how I feel about both sides. I think shame on anybody. Shame on anybody who thinks they get to go through life without ever getting their feelings hurt. Deal with it. Deal with it. It comes, deal with it. As far as Stephanie White goes, I'm sorry, Jason, but I heard something different than everybody else. What I heard Stephanie White do is say, damn, I put her in this situation. I lit that grenade. I went out there trying to defend my player in Caitlin Clark and trying to take the light off of what had just happened with her walking off the court. And I brought up the files, and that's how we got here. I think that was her way of apologizing to Alyssa Thomas. I put you in this mess because I really think that's what's going on there. That's what happened. As far as her defending Caitlin Clark, I don't think anybody needs to be defended in this. I think this is this is almost a fight that never happened. The brush up that never happened, and then everybody's going back crazy over it. Hey, they're waving blinders in front of you. This isn't what this is about. This whole thing started when that woman walked off the court, and she went in the press conference, and her awkward attempt. And here's where you may be right, Maurice. She may not be used to defending Caitlin Clark, because in her awkward attempt to defend her, she went out there and made this big brouhaha over what Alyssa Thomas and Yaya was doing on the court that was so detrimental to Caitlin Clark, and the league needed before midnight. It was all over the internet. They're at it again. Look what they're doing to Caitlin. Get rid of them. Bad people, and it just escalated, and it all went back to Stephanie White's press conference after the game.
Charles, I agree with your point that, to some degree, that Stephanie White used Alyssa Thomas to distract from a situation between Caitlin Clark and herself. And Alyssa Thomas, I'm sure, has Stephanie White's phone number, and maybe they had a conversation about that. Like, hey, Steph, you did throw the match here. There was a little bit of gasoline, but wow, you threw the match and blew this thing up and put it on me. I don't think this is the way to fix that problem.
I don't think that conversation went as pleasant as you just tried to explain either when Alyssa Thomas called him. The death threats, and I mean, it's Nobody wants anybody getting death threats. Nobody wants anybody getting killed. Nobody's getting killed over this nonsense. That's just ridiculous. And I think Stephanie White, I agree with her when she says this is not coming from WNBA fans, because it's not. You gotta, I mean, there's a lot of people who make a living off race baiting, one way or the other. And this is the perfect situation to go at it with. But you know, Alyssa Thomas, the one about everybody in that league can come up with a mean tweet they done got. Everybody can come up with a mean Instagram post they got. Kathy Engelbert can't stop it. She can't stop what somebody in Iowa is writing in their basement, or what somebody in Texas is writing in their basement. Nonsense. Kathy Engelbert can't do anything about that.
I think Jason and I have been stating this for a while now. I think the basis of this is this relationship between Caitlin Clark, Stephanie White, and the Indiana Fever needs to come to an end. It needs to come to an end. Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that. From the on-court, it doesn't fit. They don't see the game through the same lens to, Caitlin Clark leaving the game. I don't believe it was because of the back injury. I think she was pissed she got subbed out of the game. All the way to the off-the-court things. They don't align. They just don't align. They don't see the game the same way. They don't see life the same way. They don't have the same lifestyles. And I think Jason has been saying for a while, can you just get a straight male coach in there for Caitlin Clark that's not going to be into any of these type of games? And I think at this point, that's what needs to happen. This organization, it's clear they don't want to deal with it. It's Amber Cox, Kelly Cross coming. They don't want to deal with everything that comes with the attention that comes with Caitlin Clark. They need to blow this thing up. Everybody needs to stop. Somebody needs to do it. Everybody needs to stop worrying about looking like the bad guy. Stop worrying about how it's going to look to the people and end this thing.
And it's going to have to be Caitlin Clark, because none of these other people are woman enough, man enough, whatever, bold enough, correct, leader enough. Because I just had a new thought and it's not that different from any of my other thoughts, but just let's accept what the league is. It's a marketing arm of the LGBTQ left-wing agenda. That's the point of the league. It's not about making money. It's about a political agenda. And the whole league is upset like, hey, man, we've been at this for 30 years using this league to promote an agenda. And here comes this woman, Caitlin Clark, that has no interest in promoting the agenda. She literally just wants to play basketball, because that's just who she is. It's not an anti your agenda. It's just like, hey, that's not what I do. I play hoops and that's all I want to do. And the whole league is upset that you've taken all the spotlight. Here's someone that doesn't want to preach our political message, but they're benefiting from, we built this platform, and this is in their minds. Caitlin Clark may have been the one that turned the lights on, but they were the electricians that installed the wiring and all the other stuff. And it's like, man, she's turned the lights on and she doesn't preach our message. We have to reduce her and put someone in her place. And I think Stephanie White is a part of that, because that overall LGBTQ message is that important to them. It's a life or death situation. It's how hard would we fight if like someone's coming and snatching up my heterosexuality and now I got to be gay? Well, that's a life or death fight for me. And so it's one for them as well. And Caitlin Clark doesn't want to be a soldier in that fight, and they're mad about it and don't know what to do. And I know I'm rambling here, I'm going a little long, but Stephanie White, Alyssa Thomas did call her angrily. And was like, and because Alyssa Thomas is wise enough to know, hey, you got a problem with Caitlin Clark and you using me to distract from that. That woman walked out of the game and ain't no one talking about that. Everyone's talking about me rubbing my fist across her neck, and everybody knows she didn't get hurt and it wasn't that big of a deal and it's being exaggerated. And it's all to protect the woman that walked off the court because she can't stand you. And That is the issue that needs to be dealt with. And I want to play this very short clip. This is a very short clip. Yesterday, they asked Stephanie White about Caitlin Clark. And this woman gave the whole exchange from question to her answer was 6 seconds. The biggest star in the WNBA is missing games, out with a back injury. The media asks about it, and all they have time for is 6 seconds of a response. Play the clip.
Any updates on Caitlin and her status, or expect her to practice today?
No, she's going to be doing an individual workout today.
That's the only question and only response about Caitlin Clark being out yesterday. This is a cover-up. The media won't ask the questions because they're all in on, hey, they don't want to talk about, they don't want Stephanie White to have to deal with the fact that Caitlin Clark is that frustrated with her that she walked off the court and now is doing an individual workout because they can't stand the sight of each other. And they got to continue with this lie that there's some sort of injury here. And Maurice, I don't think it's a coincidence that Sophie Cunningham just happened to be sick yesterday and couldn't practice either. It's like the two people that annoy them the most, who should be and probably are some sort of trade package being shopped around, preferably to LA, just happened to miss practice yesterday.
I agree with you. The fact that everyone is on walking on eggshells about even asking this lady the truth about what is going on here. She stormed off of the floor after sitting on the bench with the lineup that was going to be reinserted into the game, and then she disappeared. What is really going on? The fact that everyone's on pins and needles and nobody wants to ask the real questions, that says everything about the environment. This individual workout, remember, she did the individual workout right before the Portland game that she didn't play in. All of a sudden, there's no Sophie Cunningham. There is not that many coincidences. The Indiana Fever is a toxic workplace, as I've been stating for a long time, and it is coming to a head. Stephanie White doesn't want to look at Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark don't even want to be around the group at practice. Did you see Kelsey Mitchell lauding about Ty Harris and how she's looking forward to building more chemistry with Ty Harris at the point guard spot? Listen, this isn't a good workspace. It needs to come to an end immediately, Whitlock. Immediately.
Charles?
Jason, I know you're from Indianapolis, but that's got to be the worst media in the country right now. I can't. It's come on. I mean, I can't imagine being that bad. Is Caitlin Clark practicing? Like, no, she's doing individual workout. Or is she going to be at practice? That's got to be a follow-up question there. And why would she not be at practice? You know, you want to do an individual workout? You do it around the practice schedule. You still need to be at practice. We're going to talk about things and do things that when you do get back, you need to be caught up. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, it was like a little fluff session. Really? How's Caitlin Clark doing? Well, she's not going to be at practice. She's going to do individual workout. And then you go on to something else? That's mind-boggling.
Charles, it's the first of the month. Bills are due. Nobody's trying to get Agnes out of the building. No, bills are due. I want to keep a job. I'm not going to ask you any real questions, Charles.
Maurice, I'll tell you what I told Jason yesterday. Had there been a WNBA team in Kansas City and they had the most popular woman in the history of the sport playing on the team, and he behaved like that and he didn't ask those questions, he'd still be a reporter for the Kansas City Star right now. And those reporters in Indiana, they're going to find themselves right there 30 years from now.
Well, Charles, here's where I'm wrong. Here's where I think you're wrong and you don't understand the business. That is what is preferred. People that will stay on message, stay in their lane. I'm just telling you, Charles, because ESPN's doing the same thing. You think ESPN didn't have someone at that practice? You think, again, look at all the people that I like. But it's like, I watch Colin Cowherd talk about Caitlin Clark from time to time. Is he touching? The woman walked off court. Is it being touched anywhere? ESPN, Fox Sports, anywhere. Everybody's been trained that, hey, there's certain narratives you don't trust because the league has insisted that we're not, and it's like she's too hot to handle. Everybody's afraid. It's not just those guys in Indianapolis. It's just like, this is one of the most obvious topics, the biggest story in women's sports ever. Hey, I'll give you, has Christine Brennan, me and Maurice, I'm sure you follow, is she tweeting about this? Has she touched, like, hey man, Caitlin Clark walked off the court here and there's no explanation? I don't think even Christine Brennan has touched this. Works for USA Today, wrote a book about Caitlin Clark. She's pretending like, well, that was normal when she had a back injury. Everybody's seen the highlight. Even if you don't believe me or take me and Maurice's interpretation of the video, you still have to address it, but nobody is. And so, this is what I'm saying. This media thing has been turned upside down. The people that ask real questions are ostracized. The people that stay on agenda, on message, and do what they're told, they're lifted up.
And it's about access, Charles. You know, these people don't want to lose. Access is pretty much their paycheck. You know, Jason Whitlock or myself, I can go on my own YouTube channel and say whatever I want. I can monetize whatever I want to say, and I don't have to rely on having access or being able to get into the building to earn a paycheck. And most of these people, they're just not going to risk losing a paycheck after they made an example. The Indiana Fever, make no mistake about it, they made an example out of a reporter to everyone else, to the rest of the Turn Your Phone Sideways crew that gets access to Stephanie White and the players. Don't ask what we don't want you asking, or you will not be here. And a lot of them don't have their own platforms to go to if that takes place.
Well, let me explain how to handle that. You borrow me from the locker room or from the press room, fine. I'll watch the game from the stands. You borrow me from the stands, I'll just watch it on television. And guess what? Then I'm going to write what I really want to write and deal with the aftermath. So you two can play that game.
Hold for a second. I agree with you, Charles, because, hey, that's basically what I'm doing and have done. But there is a penalty, Charles, because sports fans have been brainwashed into believing, hey, I'm just supposed to take a side. And so either I'm pro Stephanie White or I'm anti Stephanie White, or either I'm pro Caitlin Clark or I'm anti Caitlin Clark. And so you're going to piss off somebody by telling the truth. There's people think foolishly and wrongly that, hey man, Whitlock is offering up criticisms of Caitlin Clark because he's chasing audience. And the opposite is totally true, that I'm losing audience for saying these things about Caitlin Clark that her crowd doesn't like. There is no audience in that. I'm telling you, man, they've illegalized and taken the profitability from truth and being objective and being authentic. These are all things that the first 25 years of my career were totally built on. The reason I was on Oprah Winfrey's show, the reason I won those National Journalism Awards is because I was authentic and I was honest and I said things that people didn't like all the time. That was my brand. That's what made me valuable. The opposite is true now. You have to choose a side and just serve that side, whatever it is they believe, in order to build audience and in order to be as profitable as you can be. This stuff that I'm doing, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, I just don't know any other way. I can't do and again, I'm counting on people to mostly understand, man, like, I like Caitlin Clark. I want her surrounded by people and strategizing with people that have her back and want to see her reach her full potential. And this is a perfect segue into what I wanted to do. And this is where I think this environment she has with Stephanie White is so toxic and so irresponsible for who Caitlin Clark is. I want you all to listen to her talk about using a sports psychologist and how stressful it is being the face of this league. There's a mental war being waged against Caitlin Clark, and she doesn't have the right people in her corner to help her combat it. Play SOT 3.
Try to like distance.
You got this little white girl from Iowa that just wants to hoop. That's it. And they have her locked into a race discussion. And where she's the bad guy and her fans are racist and she doesn't do this. And it's like, man, she just wants to hoop. She's a young person that loves the game, loves playing it. And they've got her locked in this mental war. And she does it from Stephanie White to Lynn Dunn to Kelly Crosskoff to Amber Cox. None of them are on her side. None of them are giving her the proper support. That is where I do have some sympathy for Caitlin Clark, but at some point, her dad, her mom, and Caitlin Clark have to eliminate some people and reconcile the fact like, hey, man, for Caitlin Clark to reach her full potential, she's going to need male leadership from the agent to the coach to the front office. She's going to have to partner with men and the patriarchy. She's not ready to do that. It's no different than it took me a long time to figure out, like, hey, man, these leftists really hate me. And they may smile in my face and they may do this or do that. They may be, but at the end of the day, they hate me. They think, I'm not all in on the left-wing stuff. I was just like Caitlin Clark. Again, I've only voted once, and I never intended to vote because I don't want to be involved in politics. It's too divisive. It's too stupid. And Caitlin Clark is that same way, but I'm just to survive and for her to reach her full potential, she's going to have to choose male leadership and the patriarchy if she's ever going to reach her full potential, because this group of feminist lesbians are going to continue to destroy her mentally. And that's why I think she walked off and she's separated herself from the team. She's trying to get her mind right. They've been playing games with her playing time and playing games with her brand or just her way of thinking, life point of view. They want her involved in their left-wing gay politics, and she just doesn't want to do it. Charles, your reaction?
Jason, Maurice hit on that earlier, and I'm glad you came back to it about, Caitlin needs to get with a new group and, can get a man coach. And let me stop both of y'all right there. Now, I want you to look at this now. You got the most visible player by leaps and bounds in the history of this league that's been run by women. And what world do y'all think that those women are going to sit back and say, she needs more men in her life. She needs a man leader. She needs a man coach. Have y'all lost it this morning? That is never going to happen.
She can make it happen, Charles.
It ain't happening. The league would step in on that one. I mean, you're basically saying you women can't get it done. You women can't coach her. You women can't manage her. We need a man to come in and save the day. Oh, well, good luck trying to get that one past those women. I think you couldn't get the commissioner of the NBA to get in between that one. No, I'm gonna stay out of that one, Mr. Whitlock. Hey, if you think that's what she needs to do, Maurice, to reach her maximum ability in the WNBA, well, she's not going to reach her maximum ability. You can forget that. They're not signing.
She has to find a way to get a better group of people around her. This does not fit. Even if it has to be a Sandy Brondello, I would have loved that. But just in general, she needs a better group around her. She needs an agendaless group around her. And a group that is essentially what Jason's saying is a group that's not afraid to buck the system or buck whatever it is that they're pushing, that is going to be about leaning into Caitlin and leaning into basketball and not all of these other things.
Well, let me ask one question on this, and you or either Jason can answer it. Get rid of Christy Sides. Okay. Now we're saying Stephanie White's not the answer. Let's get rid of Stephanie Sides. How many coaches do you have to realize? Do you have to get rid of before you say, well, maybe the coaches aren't the problem?
Well, hold for a second. I would have never fired Christy Sides, for one. And I'm telling you, if you go back 2 years ago, it's not that I was a strong Christy Sides person, but I was like, man, I don't get why they were playing well. I think her and Christy Sides had figured it out. And then point two, if I can't have a man coach, last year when this was available, I called Kim Mulkey. I was like, hey, Kim, would you coach the Indiana Fever? I may want to start campaigning for that. Kim Mulkey would be a great coach for Caitlin Clark. Kim Mulkey is, heterosexual, was married, still is heterosexual. And I say this, Kim, I hope you're not watching. I hope no one sends you this clip. But I said it last year. I was like, Kim Mulkey likes men. That's why she got fake breasts. And so that is what she needs. I like the UCLA coach. Why can't is it Corey? The UCLA coach.
Corey Close.
Corey Close. Yeah, I like her. But these hardcore LGBT activists, like Stephanie White and this group around her, it just can't be done. But yeah, I do think a man, and I'm telling you, Caitlin Clark has enough leverage, and they're trying to take it away from her. But she certainly had enough to demand whatever coach she wanted and to play for whatever organization she wanted. They're trying to eliminate her leverage. They haven't done it, but they're getting close. Maurice?
To Charles, I would say however many it takes. I don't care if you got to run through Stephanie White, Christy Side, however many it takes to get it right. When you bring in everything that she brings in terms of the fan base, the viewership, the money, and you have to be careful when also kind of coming at the new fans, because without all of these new people that she brought in, you guys wouldn't be making $1.4 million a year. Aaliyah Boston, you wouldn't have signed a $6 million deal. So you had that, there's a fine line you have to walk when, kind of downplaying, the new fans, so to speak. But I'm willing to go through as many coaches as it takes, Charles. Look, do we got to get Charles in position? Charles, are you willing to take the job? I mean, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get her away from this mess. And at the end of the day, it's best for the league, even if they don't realize it or they don't want to accept it. The best thing for this league is if Caitlin Clark actually succeeds and wins at a high level.
Now, I agree with you on that. But in defense of them, they don't think that they're attacking the new fans. And me personally, I don't think that people who are driving to games and spending their money and taking their families out to the games, I don't think they're going home and getting on the internet and trolling the athletes. I think that's a group of people who couldn't give a damn one way or the other what happens in the WNBA or the players in the WNBA. They found some targets. I think it's got nothing to do with the people who are sitting there in the stands. So I agree with him on that point. But you got to be careful when you say however many it takes, because, I mean, if you get to the point where you're on 3, 4, 5 coaches and you're still having the same problems, and it becomes a you problem, Maurice. It becomes the way you accept in coaching. And I think there's no other way around that. But it's... And I agree with Jason on this. I've told him this before. I was blown away when they fired Christy Sides. I didn't get it, because that second half of the season, I thought, whoa, this Indiana team is going to be a problem in this playoff. And I'll be honest with you, Asia Wilson was the player of the year that year, and she deserved it. Had Caitlin Clark played the whole season the way she played the second half, she may have won it. I thought she was that good.
And the other thing that was that good was Kelsey Mitchell under Christy Sides. Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark worked well together under Christy Sides. Aaliyah Boston worked well. It made no sense. But It does make sense if you understand what this league is really about. They had to get someone who they thought could get Caitlin Clark on the agenda, because this league isn't about making money. It's about a political platform and an agenda that they want to promote. And Stephanie White is being used to either get Caitlin Clark on that agenda, to help either diminish Caitlin Clark or move her out to Los Angeles, where they could really put the full court press on Caitlin Clark if they get her out to Los Angeles. And I still think that's where she's headed, because I just don't think this situation's tenable. I want to end, guys, here. I want to get one more clip in, and this really has not as much to do with Caitlin Clark and just more about the media system, ecosystem around Caitlin Clark. Because I don't think there's really any good guys. There are people trying to benefit off Caitlin Clark by, overlooking any of her flaws, and then there are people trying to benefit that just find flaws in everything. And Emmanuel Acho this week said the dumbest thing in the world, that the WNBA would be better off with Caitlin Clark out of the league. And then once he got all that attention, then he turned himself into the victim. And again, we'll close here. It's like this victimhood Olympics. Everybody's in on it. Emmanuel Acho has figured out a way to make himself the victim in this. Play Satnam.
I've been called the N-word more times in the last 24 hours than I have in the last 24 years in defense of Caitlin Clark. And this is why I suggested that Caitlin Clark has been more detrimental than she has been an additive. Not because of Caitlin Clark's ability, because those that have come to the defense of Caitlin Clark, and I use that word loosely, are spewing hatred, are spewing misogyny, are spewing racism, and that is detrimental to the W, it's detrimental to society, and it's detrimental to humanity. Focusing on Alyssa Thomas, she made a basketball play. A play that was so common that it wasn't even seen as a foul. Alyssa Thomas didn't react, Caitlin Clark didn't react. Because it was a relatively common play, then based upon backlash, a play goes from not even being seen as a foul to being a one-game suspension, all in defense of Caitlin Clark. So as I look at it, the individuals that are trying to act as though they're defending Caitlin Clark, they're not. They're just finding ways to unleash their own innate hatred, finding ways to unleash their own innate misogyny, finding ways to unleash their own innate racism, finding ways to unleash their own innate sexism, and they're doing so veiled as Caitlin Clark's fans, who don't even truly support the W, nor do they support Caitlin Clark.
To call that play a normal play, I'm saying it's exaggerated. It wasn't a punch to the throat. She balled up a fist, slid it down her arm into the throat. That's not a normal play, Acho. I don't know where he's been playing basketball at where that's a normal play. It's not. It was worthy of a flagrant in some regard. Maybe a suspension's over the top, but it's certainly worthy of a flagrant. It's not a normal play. And then to somehow twist yourself and the Caitlin cult and I've been called the N-word more in the last 24 hours. Really? The way we throw around the N-word? And I guess he's talking about the hard R, but give me a break. Black people, he gonna get called a nigga more times today than he did yesterday and the day before. Cut it out all the victim. They've turned sports talk totally gay. Here you got a big old football player that has turned himself now everyone's calling me the N-word because they're defending Caitlin Clark, and that's Caitlin Clark's fault. Gay. Well, anyway.
I was disgusted with what Acho had to say. For one, turning yourself into the victim just like the WNBA players is ridiculous. Emmanuel Acho, come on, stop it. I would like to think you are better than that. Two, to say the WNBA would be better off than Caitlin Clark, I understand that NFL is in a quiet time. You're waiting for training camp. NBA season is done. It is a quiet time for some of the major sports, and you need something to talk about. And I believe you don't watch the WNBA. You probably saw the highlights, saw the clip, and you said, hey, I need something to talk about on my show. This is nasty. I don't know what Emmanuel Acho is doing. It's ridiculous. It was an awful take to say the league is better off without her, and then to turn yourself into the victim. Sad.
Charles.
I think there's been a lot of people who have commented on this who don't watch the WNBA, don't watch the NBA, probably doesn't watch any kind of women's sports. Their whole knowledge from the whole situation was a freeze frame and what somebody said on Instagram or Twitter, and they saw a chance to let me put my 2 cents in, and it's and. Think about the women in the WNBA though. On the other side, whoa! You mean to tell me if we foul this woman, we gotta listen to lectures from people on Capitol Hill and CNN and every news pundit in America because we fouled this woman? You know what about
Charles? This was on the Australian news, Charles.
Exactly, and I talked to a prominent coach yesterday and had no idea what was going on except for the fact, Caitlin Clark got punched in the throat. And I had to explain to him, no, that's not what happened. That's what they want you to believe this is all about. But this is not what started it. And it's all from a freeze frame. And I'll tell you, I watched the game. I knew nothing about this incident until I saw the press conference after the game, and then Jason sent me a picture of the freeze frame, and it was in a freeze frame. And like you said, if it was a punch in any way whatsoever, then I'm gonna tell you right now, there's not a woman in the world who can whoop Elisa Thomas because she's got the quickest hands in America. If she can punch that fast.
She's Layla Ali. Hey, gentlemen. I've gone 2 hours today. I got to stop, and I'm going to apologize. There will be no harmony today. I've worn myself out, and I can't do the transition. It's a difficult topic. We'll get to it tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching here on Fearless. We'll see you tomorrow.